Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kent Talks with Logan Evans. I'm your host today, Logan Evans, and I'm going to be talking about something very dear to all of us who live here in Kent, especially all of us who plan on continuing to live here, plan on having children here, and planning on having our children's children live here. And this is the housing crisis. An interesting thing that I learned when I was talking with the King County Realtors of King County, an organization, was I received a lot of really useful information. And one of this was actually related to a deal made by all the cities in King County about how they would do housing units. What happened was these cities all came to an agreement. You're going to have X number of people coming into the state, coming into this region, and you're going to need Y number of houses. Seems pretty fair, and it feels like you can have a pretty good equation to address this issue. What happened, though, was they all agreed that if you had too many housing units, you would have too many people. And they really wanted to discourage the number of people moving here so it wouldn't overwhelm infrastructure. They did this, of course, by looking at the number of driver's license holders in Washington state and then going for the lowball number. Now, some of you might pause here and think, well, this seems odd because reducing the amount of housing wouldn't necessarily discourage the number of people trying to move here, because you have to consider what are the reasons people move here to Western Washington and its jobs. Tech industry. We have a massive attractive force. Well, of course, that is what happened. We get a huge number of people moving here. Massive numbers, far more than expected, because we are the tech center of the West Coast alongside parts of California. But again, we have a massive population here, massive urban centers, massive employment opportunities, which means massive attractive pull factors. But the cities and the county agreed for the lowball housing number. Compounding this issue was what I mentioned before, basing it on driver's license. The problem here is that people are going to have kids. They're going to bring in family members. You might have people who initially walk and then will get a car. By basing the housing numbers off of this, you get this incredible, massive disconnect between the actual numbers of people and the number of housing units you're going to need. So again, comical issues going on here, this lowball number of population. The big thing that really hits me, though, is when Washington deals with housing, we deal with it in two ways, and this is part of the crisis. It is either suburban housing units or apartment complexes. The reason this is really important, and part of the reason we all suffer here, especially in Kent, is that 30 years ago, Kent decided to become the apartment capital of the United States by doing a massive investment in subsidized and cheap apartment units. Now, this at first sounds nice. We might think, wow, that's so kind. We're helping people who cannot afford a suburban house get an apartment. And we'll get into some of the issues here. But the big thing is we are not building enough housing. You have a choice of apartments or a suburban house. The problem with this, of course, is space use. Apartments are very efficient in space, very efficient in space. But the issue is an apartment is not owned. Apartment owners do not pay a lot of taxes, for the most part, because again, they are people who cannot afford a home for one reason or another. And when they're subsidized, more frequently they're welfare dependent. They are in fact not taxpayers. They are tax consumers, we could say. You'll notice this caused a huge issue for a lot of our school systems and a lot of taxes around here, which are based on, again, property taxes. Now, that's a different issue that I'd like to talk about, but neither here nor there. Coming back to this. Kent has a huge number of apartments. The apartments, of course, we're all well aware, have a major issue. Wherever an apartment complex is built in Kent, there is a skyrocket in crime. Now, this becomes an unfortunate thing, right? Again, people want more homes. They want more housing. We realize we need it because homes are incredibly expensive. $800,000, $1 million houses for homes that, 20 years ago would have gone for basically nothing. By nothing, I mean like 300 grand. So again, we know we want dense housing. We know we need more housing. But again, crime. And people are rightfully afraid of it. When you build an apartment unit, you will get people who will start stealing and robbing around you. And this is upsetting. And then people fight against apartments because they are rightfully terrified of what it means. Yes, their child may have a place they can afford, but it also means their home is more likely to get broken into. Okay. My proposed solution to this, what I think Kent really needs, caught between this trap of million-dollar suburban housing that we cannot build more of, and apartment complexes that are going to lead to transitory populations that have no real investment in the community, and people who are trapped like me because we can't buy a home and we have to live in an apartment, is to do European-style condominium housing. Now, thankfully, there's actually been a law change that happened in the state of Washington that allows the creation of these buildings, these true condominium structures, these multi-room structures. And the beauty here of these condominiums is not only are they not rented, they're actual homes, actual flats that a person can buy and pass on to their family. Now, the beauty of the condominium structure is it allows us to actually address the housing issue. We can build dense, attractive housing that a person can invest in, that they can buy in to live near their family, where a person can actually visit their grandparents, visit their parents who do own $1 million house somewhere around here, while they are able to get a starter home for the first time. I hope maybe a lot of you guys who are older here might remember what a starter home is. I sure don't. None of my students are going to know that. But when you have this condominium, you can design it to appeal to the family that's beginning, that can't own their own property and maybe wants to own it one day. You can get the individual, the bachelor, the bachelorette, or the person who just wants to live in the heart of a city. When I was traveling Europe, I saw tons of beautiful, wonderful condominiums right in the downtown area that people wanted to live in because it meant not just that they had a home in the city, but they could leave it and walk out immediately to actually explore the city around them. Kent doesn't have this at all. I mean, one, we've talked about some of the crime issue and infrastructure issues before, but a lot of this comes down to housing. People live in suburban housing complexes, therefore they must drive. And if you must drive, you must have parking. But if we can build this dense European-style condominium structure, we are able to actually develop the downtown in a way where people can live, and when they can live there, they can walk out of their home, and we can design the city around people living and walking, and around a population of net taxpayers who want to live here and who are going to be invested in passing on their flats, their condominiums, to their children. Now, some of you, of course, might have seen condominiums, and here in America, oftentimes they're fairly small, I would say. The city of Kent has proposed doing 4-story units and dumping a bunch of 4-story housing units around Lake Meridian. Personally, I think this is a terrible idea. In fact, I think it's dumb, I think it's ugly, I think it's pointless. The real solution is we go around the light rail stations. We go around the, even the area around Kent Station. And what we do is within 5 blocks of these structures, of these transit locations, we build 20-story buildings. And then outside that 5 blocks, within 10 blocks, we do 7 stories. What we're going to get here now is dense, affordable, truly affordable, as in you could purchase it, housing that allows us to develop a real city with a nightlife that's safe, with areas that people can actually walk at and be around, like we see in Europe, like we see in Moscow, in Paris, in Sweden, like we see in old New York. There are so many cities in America that have a real downtown, and we could have that here, but we must have density. Now, this is going to get a little into the economic side, but the benefit of these 20-story buildings is you can actually run first-floor shops rent-free. Because of the payments being done here, you can actually afford to pay for first floor shops, which will mean people will have restaurants to go to, stores to shop in. We can have grocery stores, small ones spread out throughout the area so people don't have to go to gigantic, massive complexes driving 20 minutes to get there. This is going to reduce traffic everywhere. It'll give homes, it'll give a city, it'll give a vibe. We could have parties again. I mean, we could have a real nightlife and music and culture. And additionally, and this is focusing on the humanitarian side, we can also subsidize the first 2 floors of these structures for truly what we call subsidized housing for the elderly, for those who cannot truly afford to make their way or even buy a condominium. We could do all of this and address the housing issue. And again, the solution to this massive, insane housing crisis is just building tall and beautiful and dense. Well, I'll go into more detail on this in the future. There's a lot more specific numbers we could pull up that I will share again in a later broadcast. But for now, I just wanted to share with you guys one of these most pressing issues. How do we have a future in Kent where families can live here generationally, where the elderly can be taken care of by their grandchildren and by their children, instead of them having to live 2 states, 3 states away just because they can only afford a house over in Nevada, in Wisconsin, when they could live here in Kent. Well, everyone, again, I hope you had a nice time listening to this, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you all.